This episode of Sewing Out Loud is brought to you by the Made to Measure Leggings class from SewHere.com. This online class brings ZD right into your sewing room to show you how to measure, draft, and construct a pair of leggings based on your personal measurements. Go to SewHere.com/leggings to find out more and get access to all the videos and course materials immediately. That's SewHere.com/leggings.
Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of ZD Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, ZD and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
And I'm ZD Donahue.
And we are continuing our exploration of the circle skirt in this episode, the second episode in our circle skirt series. Woo!
Ooh, it might be the final one too, the final episode.
What if we
don't
decide
think
we
of
need
some more
another
stuff?
one? Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, what if we decide we need a
Or
third episode?
how long are we going to talk about? Like right now, I have like 6 topics that we're going to cover. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so first, let's explore the idea of a gathered woven circle skirt.
Right.
That this circle skirt could use an elastic waistband.
Yes,
Okay. And not have a zipper.
that's correct.
Okay. Not have any other closure. It could go up over the hips
Right.
and sit on the waist.
Right,
Okay. So what this would do is it would eliminate the need to slit that skirt
that's right.
to put in that zipper, to put
Right.
in that keyhole.
And basically, you would
whatever.
have a skirt that was, in excess of the diameter of the waist.
That's right. So we mentioned on the last podcast
Or the
episode-
circumference of the waist, however
Right.
you want to say it.
So we mentioned on the last podcast those wonderful calculators. We talked about pi, blah, blah, blah. We talked about diameter, radius, and circumference.
Right.
But on this circle skirt that we're talking about, a skirt with no inherent stretch,
Right,
but that we want to go up over our hips, we have to accommodate the hip.
the hip.
And so the circumference measurement that we're going to use for this skirt is actually the hip
measurement.
And hip would need to be the biggest
The
circumference.
biggest part it has to slide up over.
Right.
Now, you can, especially if you're making this for yourself, if you're smaller on the top, you could do an over the head
Oh,
skirt.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, true.
Because depending on what your shape is.
Very true.
Yeah.
If you are very hippie
Right.
or have a very big bum or something like that.
Or but what if you have a big belly and a big hip?
Yeah.
So that circumference gets really big.
So then you
Right.
could make it so that it could go over your shoulders.
Right.
That's also a good thing to keep in mind if you are having people try things on
Yes.
in a costuming situation, or if you are trying something on.
Yes.
If something won't go up over your hips, see
Right.
if it'll go over your head.
And I'm like the opposite.
Yeah,
If
me
I
too.
can't get it over my head, I might be able to step into it. It's kind of funny.
no, same
we have
thing.
big shoulders.
Yes.
Yep.
If there have been formal dresses I've tried on where I had to step into them
Right,
instead of
right.
put it on over my
Yep.
head. So yes, that's definitely been the case for me too. And that's just how your body, is shaped. So I think that might bring up. So we'll talk about this in just a second. So you're going to measure that biggest part that it needs to go around.
Right.
Okay. And you could add in a tad bit of ease there, an
Yes.
inch or so it'll get up around there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to create your waistband, and you are going to put elastic in it. You can do this like a casing, and you're going to
A
make your
casing.
Uh-huh.
So you can make a casing, which would be a band that you folded over and then attached to the top.
Right.
Or it could be a facing that you attached on one side and then sewed down and, threaded an elastic through.
So in this case, the skirt is being gathered up by this elastic waistband.
Yes. So the waistband, the woven waistband is the same size as the skirt.
Yes.
But once you put the elastic in it, you're going to get gathered.
So I do want to clarify that because I guess I said like woven gathered circle skirt,
Right.
and technically you can gather anything.
Yeah,
onto a
technically
waistband,
it's
right?
flat,
Yeah,
but when the elastic we're believing is going to gather it up. And that's another important thing
Yeah.
is that the elastic has to fit over the bum.
The elastic has to fit over the
So
bum.
if you don't have enough
Yes.
give in that elastic, so say you need, 6 inches of give.
Make sure your elastic
I
does
mean,
that.
you need to take that elastic, measure what you think is right, hold it together or pin it together at that length, and try and get it over your bum.
Let's say you
or over the top or wherever you're going to decide to get it over.
Let's say you've got 30-inch waist on the wearer and the wearer has a 40-inch hip.
You're right.
Okay, well, you want your elastic probably to be a little smaller than the waist.
Right.
You know, not a ton.
Right.
You don't want it to be crazy.
Well, and some of the fabric's going to take up the
exactly.
ease
so
too.
Maybe you go to like 29.
Yeah.
You know, with that elastic, and then you need to make sure it stretches to 40.
Right.
Right.
Well, and that's not absolutely true, because what I will tell you is when you put on that skirt, you can put it on where the circle becomes an ellipse.
Yeah, your body's not a cylinder.
Right.
Your body isn't a perfect circle.
And you can make that circle become sort of an ellipse where you're bringing it up over one side of the hip and then the other.
No, it's
so
very
the
true.
try-on method is the best, but you might be making this for someone else.
Yeah. Now, ZD, in the circle skirts that we mentioned at the beginning of last episode, it was 3 layers. The top was like a sparkle
organza.
For some reason I want to say chiffon. Sparkle organza, and then 2 layers of like polyester.
Well, the middle layer was actually like a lightweight satin.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Or was it a crepe?
I think
a satin back crepe.
Something like that.
It might have been. And then the underneath was actually kind of like a thin lining fabric. I don't think it was lining specific. But...
So these were 3 woven layers that would go up around the hip. And so then you cut elastic that would fit onto these people's waists.
Right.
And then did you like quarter your elastic and you just serge the elastic on?
And I just serged the elastic on. The waist wasn't going to show.
That's
and this
right.
was a big wide piece of swim elastic is what it was.
So what ZD is saying is like the elastic was sort of exposed. Like if you just there was no
looked kind of like a slip almost.
Yeah.
You know, but in making these, I knew in that particular instance they weren't going to show, and then I also knew in the future you can always add a sash.
Yeah, you can always put something over it, put a belt over it,
right?
And it made your process much faster.
Well, and like I said, I was trying to not make, 40 sizes. I was trying to make like 5 sizes.
Okay, so when you make your own, we've talked about this a little bit before in other episodes, but when you make your own sizes, a 29-inch piece of elastic is probably going to fit on the person with the 29.5-inch waist and the 30-inch waist and the 30.5-inch waist and maybe the 31, maybe up to 32 or something. That's how sizes work in normal pattern drafting. So that's what ZD did.
Right.
Okay, she would kind of take these samples and make her own sizes, which I think that's just really cool. It's always fascinated me when I remember realizing when you were making your own sizes from these, not like random things. You knew the smallest person was this big and the biggest person was this big.
And so what I did is and I'll tell you what I labeled my sizes too.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of them going, oh, I want a smaller, I want an X. They were A, B, C, and D.
Yeah. That's what Jaylee does with their patterns.
Yeah.
They're A through Z. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So that circle skirt, if you go to the app or you go to your pen and paper or you go to your phone calculator, that circle skirt we just described is made of a non-stretch fabric. It needs to go up over your hips and needs to then sit on your waist. So you have to use your hips as the circumference.
Right.
And then you get your length, which would be the same from waist to hem.
So essentially, this is going to take more fabric than if you were fitting at your waist. And I will mention this here.
Yep.
There can be a lot of waste in making a circle skirt. It's an easy garment. It's pretty. I love them. But you will have some big scraps. Now, sometimes you have a nice big circle
to
you can do something with.
Keep it.
I've made placemats out of them and things like that before. But, you wind up with a lot of waste. You really do.
No, that's a good point. So that people aren't like surprised.
Yeah.
So that is the woven one. Now let's talk a little bit. Can we talk about knit ones? Is that, or do you want to talk about something else first?
Well, you want to talk about the yoke because
it could
it could be either. The yoke could be either.
Well, let's just talk about the yoke. Okay. So you can make yourself a yoke
that fits at the waist and down the hips. Say it can go down 6 inches, 8 inches, 4 inches, whatever. So basically, you have a skirt that is fitted from the waist, down to the hips. And I think I would go with knit here.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're going to have to put some darts in it. You're going to have to draft the top of your skirt and fit it.
I've actually had a skirt like that did not have darts in it.
Was it? And it was woven?
Yeah,
yeah,
and it was woven.
How far down did it go, though? See, that's
Actually,
the other thing,
it
too.
was like an A-line skirt.
Was it?
It wouldn't work for everybody, would it?
Right.
It depends.
No,
okay,
no,
it wouldn't,
just depends.
but you're right. So it's a little more tailored.
Yeah. So if it's woven, you want to make sure that, what we're talking about is a yoke that's tailored to your body shape.
Yes.
If you do a knit, especially like a nice spandex knit that has a lot of, stretch, probably 40 to 70%,
Right.
say, you can take a waist measurement and sort of a hip measurement and come up with this,
Like a
trapezoid shape that will fit your waist and hips.
Yeah,
right.
So it's like you have this pattern piece. The top line is half waist. The
Right.
bottom of the trapezoid is half hip.
Right.
Or wherever you've gone down to. Okay. And then the length is the distance. The height of the trapezoid
Right.
is the distance from waist to hip. And I round it a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. I make just a little round there. Yeah. So it's not a real trapezoid with angles at the end.
You can just round it a bit.
Yeah.
And then this goes down a little bit from your waist. And then where do you get that circumference from for your...
Right. So wherever that lands, wherever you decide the bottom of that yoke lands, that will be your circumference for your circle skirt.
Yes.
Now, this circle skirt should not gather.
Right.
Okay. It should lay exactly on that measurement.
This is a very stunning composition for dance.
We did a lot of even practice skirts when we were doing ballroom made this way.
Talk about what you did with the waist from your circle skirt for the practice skirt. Do you remember? You made a little godet in the back.
Right. It was the circle I cut out, and I put it as a godet in the back seam of the skirt. So there was this little flippy thing, thing in the back.
What that does, the look is that you get some more smoothness coming down the body.
Right.
So, like, if you put some power mesh in that yoke, you could get a lot of smoothness there if you need it or you want it. Or it just won't. And you know what it does? When you twirl, it doesn't.
It twirls from the hip.
It twirls from the hip and not the waist.
And the other reason you'll sometimes see this done, like in fashion, is if there is a fitted top. So like, I'm thinking of like a jacket right now or something like that, but it doesn't have to be. But a fitted top that you want to go down smooth over that.
Over the hip line?
Over to the hip line, because you don't want all those folds and everything in there in the bulk of the circle skirt.
So you're like delaying the bulk.
Right, because you would be mashing down this bulk and actually making yourself thicker there.
Well, color me...
surprised?
I don't... Surprised... Is surprised the right word? Learn something new every day, I guess, is the other way to put it.
Enlightened.
Enlightened. Now, that
would be called the enlightened skirt. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now, we are going to talk a little bit about where a circle can be used elsewhere. But you could like lengthen this yoke. You could put a circle skirt at your knees.
Right.
Or, you could have a pencil skirt and put a circle on it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So when you see that little flippy thing at the bottom that's a flounce. The flounce is a circle.
That's right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. It's cut on the curve and then applied to the straight of the hem. And that circle becomes that flounce.
That's right.
The other thing you can do with the circle skirt is you can have more than one layer.
Yeah.
And so you can either have both layers attached at the same place, or you can have them attached with a more straight piece underneath and then dropped.
So picture the yoke skirt.
Right.
With the circle skirt that starts at the hip area.
Right.
And then a circle skirt that starts at the waist, like on top of it. Is that...
I'm talking about underneath. You'd see the layers on top.
Even underneath, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So that, those are all those things you can do with those shapes and those ideas.
So that yoke, like Mom said, I think if you have a larger waist to hip ratio, you're going to need some more tailoring in the woven department. Like Mom said. Some darts, something.
I don't think I could wear a woven without having some darts in it. Because I have a big difference between my waist and my hips. I have almost a 10-inch difference between my waist and my hip.
And I don't. And I did own a skirt like that at one point. I can picture it in my brain. But yeah, it worked for me because I don't have that big difference. And especially if you have a bum that like sticks out, like you have a very, like kind of a shelf, like that's not going to work because you are going to need more subtlety of fit there,
Right. And, And again, with the circle skirt, the reason that you let it hang for a day and you measure your hem from the bottom is not only is it going to relax, right, and become uneven, but when you put it over that bum or that belly or that hip or whatever gives you your lumps and bumps or your curves or whatever you want to call them, they're all the same thing.
Yep.
But you may need a longer back on your skirt, or you may need a longer front on your skirt.
To bring that
so
up.
It doesn't stay this perfect donut shape anymore when you lay it out.
That is the worst thing. I hate seeing this in costuming when you see an actor up there who does have like a shelf-like or like a bum that just, sticks out. And it doesn't seem to happen as much with the bellies just because, obviously we have more muscle and more opportunity for tissue back there like humans do. But when someone has like a generous bottom and then it's like their skirt is so much higher in the back, I'm like, oh, I just wish this would have been made properly.
You know what it does to me? So if you can picture like a cartoon people draw of like an old lady, who can't stand up straight.
Right.
They always have the back of the skirt up high, and it reminds me of that.
No, it really bugs me because it
reminds me of that.
I also think that the performer is going to be nervous because the skirt is higher in the back.
And that's the other thing too. I mean, you can get a peek at stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, you can.
And when we saw a production of Waitress in St. Louis, and the waitresses are wearing these waitress outfits, and one of the waitresses, she had like a very generous behind, and her hem was perfectly even, and I thought,
somebody knew what they were doing.
We put the right amount of fabric in the back. Thank God.
And she deserves to have the right hem.
Oh, it's just a big... Yeah. Now, I personally don't really have this problem because I don't have a big bum.
I don't have a big bum
But whenever I costume someone, it is something that I'm like, okay, we're going to put enough fabric back there, because they don't need to be worried about something showing. So you may want to see that on your circle skirt. Now, what's an easy way to make a high-low circle skirt?
Well, the other thing I was going to say, though, about this is like when I was making these for the show choir people, I didn't allow for that. But it had that elastic waist, and they could flip the waist just in the front or just in the back. So they could kind of take it up if they needed to.
And those were a little longer, too.
Well, we did. We allowed for it. And these were kind of young girls. I mean, nobody was real curvy.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple, but not too many.
But there is a way to make a high-low circle skirt, and that's to offset your circle, your waist.
Right.
So if you want to do that, you can just move. You can fold in an uneven way, and get that. Okay, so that's the yoke where you can lower the circle skirt a bit. Now let's talk about just like a knit circle skirt.
Yes, my fave.
My fave. Let's go into I want to talk about construction, calculation, and whatnot, but then I also want to talk about fabric type, because knit, a stretchy fabric, and the word knit is a very broad category.
Well, I was going to say, knit probably isn't really this is wrong, because when you said knit, I'm thinking something with spandex.
That's right. Okay? That's what I want to talk
about. So
if
it is just a knit,
right,
I really don't like a knit circle skirt. I feel like it can get misshapen very easily.
Like we mentioned in episode 1, circle skirts have a lot of fabric to them, right?
Yes, they do. And if you have just, say, like a double knit, that's a fairly light double knit, that skirt's going to really get out of shape.
Right.
It's really got the possibilities of getting out of shape.
Picture, if you're like, well, I don't know, I'd use any knit for a circle skirt. Picture a sweater knit.
Well, yeah, you don't want that at all.
I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, that's not gonna fly.
So my favorite is like a spandex knit, like maybe a weight you would use for leggings,
or dance wear,
or even the double brush poly does well.
Yeah, the double brush poly I think is good.
It can be a little light. It's going to depend on the piece of fabric.
It can be light and it can be heavy at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Yes, that's true too.
I think about some of the rayon spandex knits that are out there.
Because when they start getting voluminous, they get heavy and they're pulling on the lighter areas of the garment.
Yeah, they're pulling on that waist. I would recommend going with a little bit more of a stable knit. It can still be a drapey knit.
Like I said, I really like something like swimsuit.
Okay, so like a knit where...
dance wear.
Let's pretend you're in the store.
Okay.
and you get this bolt, and you kind of take it off the rack, and you unroll, like, 2 of the
two loops.
Loops, okay? And you kind of
hold
it up.
Which is about a yard.
Yeah, okay. So you, like, hold up, like, a yard of that fabric, and you kind of lift it a little bit. It should sort of keep its shape a little bit and not be, like, vroom, drapey.
It shouldn't
like
go absolute flat.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying you can't.
Right.
You can do whatever you want, but that when you get real heavy
especially if you want this garment
drapey,
to wear, is what I guess I'm thinking.
You could also make that quarter circle skirt, instead of the
and
full.
It might work better.
Yes, where it could. That's where it could work. Now we're not talking about things like opacity and stuff like that in this. Keep that in mind.
We're talking about the hand of the fabric.
Yeah, just sort of the hand of the fabric. But sometimes those rayon spandexes, I think sometimes can be almost too drapey, not have enough structure.
Right.
Can be a little sad there. Let's take a break and then come back and talk about measuring and how much negative ease we're going to put in this bad boy. Hey, ZD, wouldn't it be cool if everyone who listened to this podcast could learn how to make perfectly fitting leggings directly from you, the leggings expert?
Well, yes, Mal. That's why we produce the Made to Measure leggings class. I teach anyone, no matter their age, ability, or gender, to make perfectly fitting leggings based on their measurements. And if someone is feeling particularly generous, they can make leggings for anyone who they can get to stand still long enough to measure.
You can get immediate access to all the videos and course materials in the Made to Measure leggings class by going to sewhere.com/leggings. This online class allows you to complete the process at your own pace, and you own it forever, so you can rewatch it as many times as you need.
Stop struggling with the leggings that roll down or sag in the wrong places. I'll be your guide as you create leggings that are made especially for you.
No matter what your equipment or skill level, ZD covers everything from measuring, drafting, cutting, and construction on a sewing machine or serger in this class. Go to sewhere.com/leggings and get started today. Sewing out loud. All right, and we're back. During the break, I said, so how much negative ease are we going to put in this bad boy? And ZD's like, I don't know.
I mean, for me, and for you, and again, we're talking about different
everyone's
people's bodies.
Different.
I would think an inch.
I think it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I would cut, but here's what I would do. I would cut my circle skirt to like my waist.
That's what I would make it, that it's going to be like the size of
the
my
size
waist.
of my the exact size
like
of my waist.
After I have my my seams or whatever, my circle skirt's going to be the size of my waist.
And then I'd put a waistband on that then was an inch smaller than
I
my
would
waist.
too. And what my waistband would be, because I would be using spandex.
Yeah.
Right? Would be that spandex. And more than likely, it would be a big, thick, taller
it
would be the spandex doubled over, right? And then attached, and it might have power mesh in it.
And so, since the waistband is a little smaller than the skirt, you'll stretch the waistband slightly to sew it to the skirt.
You probably won't even notice it hardly.
Yeah, you'll barely notice it. But then when you put it on your body, of course, since your waist is your waist, that waistband will stretch a bit.
Yes.
And it'll keep it up, right?
I will tell you, if I make that waistband, say, 4 inches wide,
okay,
what I will do is I will put a seam in it. Well, it has to have a seam. And I put that seam generally in the back or both sides.
4 inches seems really tall.
But that's what I like, because I like to even turn it over sometimes.
Okay, so you're giving yourself the option to like roll it down.
I like that high waistband. Nice. And the other thing that,
excuse me.
So what I will do, and I have done, and that's what how our practice skirts were made. I will, it's actually smaller at the top than at the bottom.
It's a trapezoid again.
Yes. Although it's a trapezoid times 2 because I folded it over. Right. You'd make it a trapezoid after you folded it in half, right?
Okay, and you could also do this all at your waist, and you could cut an elastic casing the size of your waist.
You can do that too.
And then encase elastic that's a little smaller.
You can do that too. I really like a power mesh waistband on these.
Yeah.
That's nice and flat. anywhere from 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah.
Depending on what I'm looking for, how I want it to feel.
I think that I'd put a slimmer waistband on there just because of where my waist and then my belly starts. I don't want that to get, it would get bunched up for me. So I would want the slimmer waistband. So that's good to know. But you don't have to put...
I bring mine up high. Yes. I like it up high. Yeah.
You don't have to put a ton of negative ease into this. You don't want it to be stretching.
You don't want it to be tight. The thing about we're talking about spandex here, that spandex has that recovery, and that's why that waistband works. If you made just a knit waistband, like a double knit waistband, it would not work.
Okay.
You would not have the recovery. You would not have the, elastic effect.
So there's no closure on this, and it's holding itself up due to a bit of negative ease.
That's right.
Due to some
elastic. So it's very much like the top of a legging.
Well,
without an elastic band.
What I want to say is you need to make sure that this waistband either stretches over your hip/bum or over your shoulders.
That's correct.
So if for some reason now these fabrics often have, like you said, 40 to 70% stretch, and most of the time that's going to work. But if for some reason your waist to hip or waist to shoulder or bust ratio is much more severe than that, you may want to double check this.
That's right.
So I don't want to guarantee for everybody, but for
when you come up with a design that works for you, you better have taken a really good notes and written this down how you did it, because that's what you want.
Do take that into consideration. Write this down. And I'm sorry that we have to say this, but every fabric
is different.
Can be a little different. And this would happen, at times when I say that, I'm like, oh, we keep having to put out this disclaimer because we talk about drafting for yourself. Maybe we should just put out patterns and say go for it. Well, when you choose a size from a pattern company,
it doesn't fit you either.
It may not fit in different fabrics either. You may have to change sizes. That's when people are like, oh, do I have to size down if I do this or that? And I'm like, well, I don't know what size you chose in the first place.
Right.
So, I have no idea. But it may take a little bit of testing. Now, so you could always make your waist circumference. So if you want to test and see if this is going to work, you would try and make your waist circumference a little smaller so that you could...
In the spandex.
Yes. If you wanted to then, you're like, oh, no, this is going to be too stretched out or da-da-da-da.
And the reason I keep saying the spandex is that knit has recovery. There are other knits that do not have recovery. You've had them, you've worn them, you've bought them and ready to wear, you've sewn with them. There are knits that do not have good recovery. They have recovery after you put them in the wash and you put them in the dryer maybe or whatever, and you shrink the fibers up, but they do not have recovery on your body.
Yep.
So, if you're bending at the knee and that pair of pants with, that's a double knit and they're not lined, you're going to have a baggy knee look.
Right. And then if you do, depending on your circle skirt, lining it, you could line it with another circle skirt, but that would be pretty bulky. Okay. Or it could be, or maybe it's not what you're looking for.
Or maybe that's what you want.
Yeah. You could wear a slip underneath it. You can wear bike shorts underneath it.
You can attach bike shorts to your circle skirt. It's been done right here.
That's right. You can also make an A-line, skirt to go under it.
Or like your pencil skirt, something tighter. You can make whatever you want. That's why we sew.
That's right.
And that's why there's not one little formula to say this is the perfect way. But once you know the principles again and you know the rules, then you adjust the rules to what you want and to your body.
So if I thought I was going to get a circle skirt out of my knit that's perfect for circle skirts, and I went to the app that I like, I'd need to take away 10/8 of an inch, right?
Right.
An inch and a quarter, so that is that right? Yes, an inch and a quarter.
It's 10/8.
10/8, because they're adding in a seam allowance for me.
That's right.
Okay, so they told me that. Thank you.
So pay attention.
Thank you for telling me.
Yes,
okay,
pay attention.
so if I want to take that away after, well, no, take it before. Okay, just don't. Don't take it away after.
Oh, wow. Listen to Mallory. She's not confusing.
No, yeah. Or if you just wanted to calculate your own, and once again, where Mom says she just uses 3.
Yep.
Rounding down. In knit land, sometimes you can get away with that rounding, It's this.
Yeah.
You really can. I'm looking at some, cotton spandex over there that's a little lighter weight than I'm wearing the 14-ounce cotton spandex leggings from LA Finch. And they're, no, I'm not. I'm not wearing those.
That's what you were wearing yesterday. Yeah.
No one would have known if we hadn't.
I didn't say a thing. You fessed up. I just happened to look and think that.
I just thought that's what I'd put on this morning. I'm thinking, that would be a nice sturdy. I'd feel secure in that. Like,
right.
Could almost be like slightly business casual, almost. Maybe in some settings. And then I'm looking at a little lighter weight cotton spandex over there from Riley Blake. Like, as an adult, I would feel like I needed to wear something under that.
It's awfully light.
It's really light.
It's so light, I don't even know if it would hang well.
Right.
It's pretty light. So that's the other thing.
Yes.
We talked about too much weight. You have to have some weight.
There's that fabric over there. It's a dance weight fabric, that's slinky fabric. Mm-hmm. And that can be fun for a circle skirt. But, if you are going slinky and stuff, that's when I'd say put some elastic.
Well,
and
I would say with that too, you might be better off with the 3/4. That can get really heavy at the bottom.
Yes,
it's that it grows. It literally grows while it is on you.
Okay, and then if you've, this isn't something we covered last time, but some of you are like, what 3/4? What? Okay, this is where I like the app because I get a little confused when I understand doing the radius of a circle for making a whole circle skirt, but then when I'm starting to do the half and stuff, I get a little more confused. Maybe
it's all about the folds when you get there and the layers.
You need to change anyway. Right. So that's why I like the app for that.
The app is good. The app is really good.
The app is really good for that.
I don't think you would have a problem with the app.
No. So yes, you might want to consider less
The other
volume.
thing about a circle skirt, where we were talking about like how it hangs and all of this, you may want it to be a little full at the bottom, and it might be hanging a little bit. So, yes, you can wear a slip or a crinoline. The other thing you can do is you can build that in. So you put another layer of a circle skirt, and then you can add a tulle ruffle, say from the bottom going up, 3 inches, 4 inches, and it'll make the bottom of that stand out a little bit.
Yes, that is something that I've seen in a lot of ready-to-wear.
Well, you'll see that, especially in ready-to-wear, a lot of like the homecoming dresses or something, you'll see like that. In fact, they'll use like a color tool that if it shows, it's cute or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not uncommon, and I've done that with dancers' costumes too.
So if you're going to wear a lot, like if you're like, oh, circle skirts are going to be a staple garment for me, I'd make myself a slip with the tulle.
Well, that's
ruffle,
true. You could do
right?
that, yeah.
So that you could, you're wearing the slip, and you can put it under any number of circle skirts, right?
So you're saying make it separate. And I'm saying if it's a costume, you might want to make it
one piece, or a special occasion dress, like you said.
Now the infamous petticoats that I made with the big ruffle on the end, those were circle skirts.
Okay.
And actually, because they were petticoats, and they were I've talked about these before. I don't know if you can remember them or me talking about them, but, they're very bright colors, and they were taffeta. And they were circle skirts, and they had a 10-inch ruffle on the bottom.
Right.
And this was on purpose. It was going to show things were going to, it was part of what was happening with the routine. And those on it had a tie, just a tie on the waist.
Right.
So that I made a casing, and I basically slid I can't remember, like a piece of twill through it or something, so that some of them did gather on the girls and some of them didn't.
Yeah, depending on their waist size.
Right, depending on their waist. And that was another costume piece that was worn over and over and over again.
Okay, now we talked a little bit about like flounces being circles or spirals. So it seems like every theater is doing Mamma Mia right now.
Is that right?
Okay.
Why? I don't know why they're going phases.
Just became available.
And they also
and the sequel.
ABBA had ABBA had like an anniversary.
Okay.
Lately, I can't remember.
So the rights must have like just become available though, because
like, all the
5 theaters around us are doing it. And the reason I bring this up is you'll see a lot of those pants, those bell bottoms with the flounces around the bottom.
And it can be a circle.
They're not always circles.
Right.
But
so instead of a godet down the side of the seam or it being cut with a flare, you have a straight leg pant, and basically there's a circle skirt added right there, usually below the knee. Some of them are above the knee.
Well, and there's like 3 of them, right? 3 layers of
they
circle
skirt. They can do 1. They can do whatever.
It's a little circle skirt for your knee and your
But
calf.
if you think about those ABBA costumes, they did a lot of that.
Yes, so that's going to add volume. Hannah in the group, she was like trying to figure out how to make this very voluminous sleeve. It was just at the wrist where there was like this flounce. Right. A lot of people call them ruffles. They're not ruffles because they're not gathered.
A ruffle is gathered. A flounce is a circle or a curve.
And it's attached flat.
It's cut on a curve and it's attached to flat, to straight.
So if you want to put one of those sort of flouncy things at your wrist, okay, you could go to the app there and you can enter the circumference of your sleeve.
Which would be 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever.
Oh, maybe it only goes down to 10. Or you're just going to have to get out your, because it starts at 10.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Well,
here, let's
what
see.
If somebody is listening to 10-inch waist?
10,
I guess they're not living. They can't. They don't have room for their organs.
10 inches is pretty.
That's really tiny.
No,
that's really tiny.
That would be pretty small.
So you will have to do
for a waist.
Use the pie.
Yes. So then you can just attach that to the sleeve.
You can draw a circle.
There you go.
That is the size of that sleeve. Now you have to have sleeve allowance to attach it. Don't forget. Okay. And then you can draw a circle around it. But honestly, all you have to do is fold that in quarters
and then
make it happen.
You see those like flounces down at the wrist that are shorter on top and longer on bottom so that you can use your hand easily, right? So what that is, let's pretend you have a circle where the diameter is like 8 inches, okay? Then you take your other circle that has your wrist, diameter, and you offset it.
That's
and you can put it on there. And you can trim up your circle. You can, of course.
So if I was going to make that flounce at the end of that sleeve, I would make my whole garment first.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't worry about making the pattern piece while I was cutting out. I would make my whole garment. Then and my sleeve would be made. All except for the flounce. I would lay down my sleeve. That gives me the measurement of half of my circumference. And then my circumference divided by pi, which is 3.14, will give me the radius I need to cut my circle.
I'm just going to correct you a little bit. Because you're going to get half your circumference dividing that number, which is half your circumference by pi, gives you your radius.
That's correct.
Yes.
I don't know if that's what I said.
You just
so you're laying that sleeve flat. And that gives you half of your circumference. And that number gets divided by pi. And that gives you the radius you need when you make that, 4-fold.
Yes.
That you need to cut that circle out.
That's for your inner, that's where it's going to get sewn together.
That would be your donut hole.
Your donut hole,
That would be your donut hole. And you may need to add
some seam allowance.
Right, which I would make on that sleeve. I would make it like a 1/4 inch or something.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So when you are seam allowancing on a circle skirt for that inner waistband or donut hole or whatever, sleeve, the smaller it gets, you might not have room for 5/8 in there to put on a sleeve.
And the other thing is if I don't give myself a seam allowance in that inner circle, it's not going to match up when I put it on the sewing machine.
So you need to give Now, we are normally big proponents of a 5/8 inch seam allowance for garments.
This seam is not going to have a stress on it.
Yeah, it's so small, not going to have stress. Good point. I just wanted to bring that up.
Right.
Because now when you're doing
if you're not sure how we explain this, message Mallory at
Shut up.
sewhere.com. ZD doesn't want to talk about it anymore.
Through the magic of editing, y'all missed out on a little something.
How we were talking about this and how to explain it. Yes.
I'm glad I caught that.
We were both wrong when we were talking about it
Mom,
initially.
Can you imagine if we had released that?
No.
Oh my God.
Man, we did some fancy editing here.
Yes, we did. Anyway, thank
you,
Sam.
We both knew what we were trying to get across.
Actually, I didn't. I did not. No,
I thought you did.
Me something.
Okay, I knew what I was trying to get across, and Mallory kept saying, "No, that's wrong." And I said, "It is not." And I was thinking the wrong word in my head.
She put on her ZD voice. She was like, "Excuse me."
I said, "Excuse me. Okay, I know my math." But anyway,
no, you don't. Not this time.
It was actually, I think, my vocabulary that was more of a problem. But anyway,
so anyway, that technique though, of flattening a sleeve like that, a cylinder, and getting half your circumference, when you start to look at the formula of C equals 2 pi r, you notice, if I give myself half of something, I'm eliminating that 2.
Yes.
Is what you see in the algebraic equation. Does the circle have to be put on to like a level? Like, I'm picturing a sleeve being a cylinder. What if that sleeve was cut on an angle, or my skirt was like an asymmetrical?
I'm really pretty sure, as long as you had the correct diameter,
circumference, or whatever.
Their circumference. As long as you have the right, you can go from there.
Yeah. So
what you need is the circumference. What you need is the going around measurement.
Yes.
So if you get confused, because I don't, right?
Right.
It's like, you have to measure around your waist. You want it to fit around. So you want this flounce to fit around the end of the sleeve.
Yeah, so it's okay. Like if you're making yourself, picture some like a flamenco dancer, okay?
Yeah.
They're getting those ruffles that might be not ruffles, flounces. Well, some people, whatever.
They could either be either.
Our flamenco dancer right now is getting flounces. And it's asymmetrical, okay?
Right.
So if you cut that like that, you can apply a circle skirt or a circular, long flounce, or a short flounce that would literally, just be a flounce and not skirt, necessarily.
Right. If you're unsure, and like when you said about the uneven, like longer in back, shorter in front, or however you want, and if you're unsure about that, I would cut it the longest length.
Right.
Apply it, and you can cut it after you get it on.
Yeah, no, and you can...
Because you might think you want it one size, and it might be different, or one length, and then when you get it on, you might change your mind.
You can also, you can cut that, so don't cut your donut hole. Okay, just cut a big circle, and you can kind of hold that up to your waist, too, and fold down and up, and be like, oh, okay, here's where it goes. Now I know where I need to put my waist donut hole. I like the donut hole analogy there. Okay.
So now I hope everyone's totally confused.
Yeah. I just want to highlight once again, if you have a serger, it can so be your friend here. Like doing the rolled edge on these woven flounces or on these woven circle skirts, or even just the 3-thread with normal serger thread or the decorative thread, boy, can that be nice for these circle skirts.
And you know what? This is another thing, I think, where things that you and I have done. Sometimes when we have to make something like this, and it might be a mathematical challenge or even a visual challenge, sometimes we will draw it out on paper, cut it out on paper, cut it out on tissue paper, just to make sure our concept works. I'm not talking about making a pattern.
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, if we make this circle here and offset it, what's it going to look like, when we cut it out of fabric? Or does this, we have a 2-dimensional idea of the shape.
Uh-huh.
Let's cut it out and make it the 3-dimension that we want. And does it look like that?
Right. And there are designers out there who design in like half scale. And have a half scale.
I believe if you want to search, our thing and search my costume. Do you remember the little bitty costume I made?
Yes.
I mean, it was the size of my hand,
right.
But I wanted to see if the fabric went together. I wanted to see what it looked like as I would, when I top stitch with a certain color thread, and it, it just looked like this little miniature costume.
Right,
and it was only actually in 2D.
Mm-hmm,
right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you all for listening. Like ZD said, I hope you all are thoroughly confused.
Everybody's
now.
eyes are like bouncing around in their head.
Yeah, if you're listening to this while you're in the car, sorry.
Don't make a U-turn. No.
we are, this would be a lovely class, don't you think, for us to just do circle skirt class.
Yeah.
Where we do
I think it'd be fun to just do a circle skirt.
And just keep...
Well, I have something else we didn't talk about.
Great.
Do you want me to bring it
up? Go ahead. This podcast is only 40 minutes long.
What happens if you cut it too short? What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah. Wait, you had that written down. Why did you miss that?
Well, because you kept talking about how dumb I was.
How wrong you were.
I was trying to get over it.
What do you do?
I was trying to recover.
Okay.
I was trying to recover from your insults. Go ahead.
What do you do?
Well, you add you could add a ruffle.
Yeah.
You could add a piece of bias. Right? What lace? All kinds of trim. I would think about trimming it out. Or you can cut another circle to fit that. Yes.
And you could cover your seam with like trim or something like that.
You could, or not at all. I mean, you could make it something decorative where. What?
I have another thing.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. We just keep thinking. Okay. Somebody needs to shut our brains down.
I know, right?
Down.
Just stop it. Okay.
Fringe.
This happens all the time in the group, though. People are like, how do I get this shape of dress or this shape of skirt? And what they're showing us is a circle skirt where it's actually, donut hole and a big square instead of the circle. If you see that very full skirt that comes down into 4 points.
It's 4 points. And sometimes the points are to the side. Sometimes they put the point in the front and the back and, whatever. They're offset.
That's a square skirt.
That is a circle skirt where only the waist has been cut out.
That's right.
And then that square you get from the square shape that you've folded.
That's right. So you don't have to cut the round hem.
Right.
And then you will have that shape and you can, da-da.
And that goes a lot of times as a flounce on the bottom of like a shirt, you'll see that.
Also, making that out of you made those out of lace to put over romantic tutus. Romantic tutus are the ones that flow down. They're not pancakes.
They're long.
Yeah,
the long
you did
tutus.
that. And so they were short. They were just an overlay, and they looked beautiful.
And it takes less fabric, and you get to incorporate that color
or that texture. How'd you finish the edge of that lace?
That was probably a 3-thread or a roll.
You didn't finish it, I don't think.
Or maybe I didn't. I think I may have because I think I was worried about kids ripping it because it was. You know what I mean?
I think I don't know.
It depends on what it was.
Anyway, whatever.
I think it depends on what it was.
But if you're looking at that handkerchiefy looking hem.
Or you can take 2 of those skirts that are square.
Offset them.
You offset the points and then you have all of those little points coming down.
Yes.
Makes a great tutu, great, little kids' dance skirts are cute like that.
A lot of people wonder where that shape comes from, and that's where it comes from. So it's just a square instead of the circle skirt.
Yes.
And you can mess around with the hem on your circle skirt to your heart's content.
Right.
Do make sure that you get the long, don't make that skirt too short. It will be long on those points.
You have to You have to remember that there's going to be a short and a long, and where you want that to fall. A lot of times the short can be a little bit shorter because you have a volume there that fills in.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. All right. That might be the last thing that I can think of now.
We are going to shut down our brains.
Yes. Okay, everybody.
Because they went wild.
Thank you. We had to have a geometry class in here. It was nutso. Okay. Thank you all for listening. You don't need to email me about how. No, you can email me. It's Mallory@sohere.com.
Actually, I think you could email Riley.
Whose email address do we know?
Wait. How about James Patrick? That would be good. Or Stan. He's learning all this stuff. Stan, you learn all this stuff and teach it to somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's just give out some other email addresses.
Jackie?
Fred?
Ooh, Fred.
Okay, no.
Fred will help you.
She
would be down and serious with
Absolutely.
you. Fred would do it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for listening. And go like us on Instagram @SoHereCom. ZD, take it away.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.